In the last 24 hours, there are 22.7 million visits on the Drudge Report. In the last 31 days, there are 868.7 million visits on the Drudge Report. In the last year, there are 10.7 billion visits on the Drudge Report. It is the largest news aggregate on the internet right now. And I check that out every now and then. This morning when I looked at it, those are the numbers I saw. And there are 48 articles on that main page, and there are links to every mainstream and alternative news source, most of them. So it's a good resource to go to get a much more objective view of the news as opposed to just going to mainstream news. You're only going to get one view pretty much from there. Although Matt Drudge is considered a conservative, I don't relate to conservatives or liberals. I don't think along those terms, and you shouldn't either, but it's a good chance you do. Because that's kind of how we've been tricked into thinking, the illusion that we have a choice. And sure, there's a little bit of a difference, but in most cases, both sides are being controlled by the same small group of people, so their overall agenda is always happening. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because when you go to a news source like that, just like what I did this morning, I look at all the titles to these articles, and I don't read every one of them, obviously. If it doesn't interest me in any way, I won't read it. But what happens with so many of us is that a lot of things are of interest, but we never read the article. And then what happens is we're bombarded by the title. And the titles where they get us many times. Remember, Satan's secret weapon, they're always throwing pages into certain books and belief systems to make us think a certain way. And this is what happens when you go to a regular newspaper. The title is designed to bombard your brain to make you think a certain way. And sometimes the article will reflect the same message, and sometimes it won't even reflect that message at all. So what I always like to do whenever I go to a YouTube video or an article on the internet, I always like to read the comment sections. And that tells you a whole lot, but you know what? You can get trapped in that same spot if you only look at the first comment and you don't look at the replies. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I'm a very passionate man. I've been doing this. I've been on the hero's journey for 28 years. Part of the hero's journey is to understand the obstacles. Believe me, I know what my mission is, and I know when something is helping my mission and when it's not helping my mission. I know an obstacle when I see it. Whether it's intentional or not, I understand if it's helping or if it's not helping. And one of my pet peeves are straw man arguments. It's one of the con artist tactics that's used to trick and fool the masses. Remember, there are people who are actually paid to come to comment sections on YouTube videos and in articles to mold public opinion. Trust me, there are people paid to do this. And all they have to do is throw a straw man as the very first line, and then they might even come back and act like they're really on your side throughout the rest of the comment, but you don't even see that unless you click on see more. But then what happens is you might have 19 replies to that comment. How many people click on to the replies to look at what else is said? The thing is, most people just see the straw man at the beginning and never go any further. And I've done a video on this subject before about why I delete straw man arguments. I'm very passionate about getting a message out to the masses. Most of us have been bombarded with so much bullshit from one side, I'm trying to present the other. My YouTube channel is not here for a debate to discuss the truth versus bullshit. We already get too much bullshit. We need to hear the other version. The last thing we need is more chaos and confusion. And yet, the psychopaths who control everything, they swim in chaos, and that's the main purpose of a lot of these shills that come on the message boards. A lot of them are making up fake testimonies, saying, oh, this happened to me. It's all made up, it's all staged. No, obviously, I'm not saying that no one's having trouble with our species-specific diet. As I mentioned in all of my videos just about, we've got another group of needs now. That species-specific diet is only an ideal diet in an ideal world, and we don't live there anymore. Some people can still do it okay and some can't. And when you hear the stories of why people can't, very few times, in fact never, do you get enough information to make an intelligent observation. They may even say, well, I did this and I had this and I did this and I did this, but really, did you tell us everything we need to know? Well, I had some durian at 1 o'clock. Had no idea it was going to take 6 hours to digest that. Well, 3 hours later, I had a mango and now I got an upset stomach. We don't get enough details. There's a lot of reasons why people can't do well with a species-specific diet, because it's only one of our essential needs. We still have to satisfy all those other needs. If you're upset mentally, if you've been damaged psychologically or mentally, you can eat the best diet in the world and still struggle. If you're thinking negative thoughts, if you're stressed when you eat. Again, there's so much details we never get when we hear people's stories. And we all have to understand that we've got to customize our own diet based on our own condition. And I've said this before, our bodies are a lot like a chariot that's being pulled by a bunch of horses. And some of those horses aren't doing very well. And all the other horses know that, and they adjust their pace based on the weak horse. We've got to do the same thing. We got to find out where our weaknesses are and then support the body accordingly. And it's not that complicated. If you look at Dr. Gabriel Cousens, I did a video previous to this about the Ayurvedic Tridosha system, and that's one way he used these personality types, constitutional types, to customize a diet based on biological individuality. But he also went into saying that some people are sympathetic dominant and parasympathetic dominant. And a certain bunch of organs will be in one group, another certain group of organs will be in the other group. So if your weak horses are in that group, then you're going to have these symptoms. And if your weak horses are in this group, you'll have those symptoms. So we know how to fine-tune what we're doing. And again, it's not that complicated. Some of our organs and some of our systems do certain things. If they're not doing those things, we have to support our body. If the thyroid's not working, we might need some thyroxine. But we want to go to something like Armour Thyroid instead of something synthetic like Synthroid. Likewise, if we're estrogen dominant, we need to go to some natural progesterone and nothing synthetic like progestin. So there's a time and a place to support the body if it's not working. What about adrenal fatigue? I have this question asked all the time. What do I do if I have adrenal fatigue? Well, if you know you have adrenal fatigue, the chances are you know that the adrenals are controlling the kidneys. And now your kidneys aren't filtering. That's going to be your weak organ. You got to slow down everything based on how well your kidneys can filter. And in the meantime, we got to figure out how to build up the strength in the adrenals. And what do we do in the meantime? Well, what else do the adrenals do? They regulate blood sugar. Okay, well, if you're going to take a solid food vacation, for example, and you have any blood sugar issues, your pancreas isn't working, or you have cellular constipation, which they call insulin resistance, or if you have adrenal fatigue, then you can't drink fruit juice. This is not complicated. If you're having blood sugar issues of any sort, then stay away from the fruit. Keep it in mind that what doesn't work in the beginning might work down the road as our body starts to heal itself. So there's a real simple rule of thumb when it comes to what do we drink and what we shouldn't drink. If it doesn't work, you don't do it. Now, obviously, there are certain conditions that require or have certain problems. They say people with arthritis have trouble with nightshades. Well, that's not true all across the board. Same thing with thyroid problems. Some people have problems with, how do you pronounce that word? Iatrogenic foods? Iatrogenic foods? Is that right? Am I saying it right? I was wondering how to say that a moment ago. I couldn't remember for sure how to say it. But some people have problems with those and some don't. And then if you do have thyroid problems, are there anything specific you can use for those? You bet. The Gerson Clinic found that radish juice was high in raffinase. which was an enzyme that helped normalize either a hyper or hypoactive thyroid. According to Dr. Norman Walker, he said if you are having problems with the pancreas, that Brussels sprouts and green beans can help feed the pancreas the nutrients it needs to help produce any insulin you might need. And Jerusalem artichokes. That was another item that he mentioned on there. So, if you want to know more about specific foods for specific conditions, I highly recommend Dr. Norman Walker's simple book on fresh fruit and vegetable juices. He has a whole bunch of conditions, and then he has juice recipes with numbers beside it, so if you have this condition, you drink those juices. In most cases, we don't need to do that. It's not that complicated. For most of us, luckily. But obviously, if you're having trouble, if one of your horses is lame, we've got to slow everything down based on that one horse. That one horse might be your liver, it might be your kidneys, it might be your adrenals, it might be your thyroid, it might be your pancreas. Whatever it is, it's up to you to figure out what it is. And you probably already know that. You've probably already been diagnosed by an expert, and you know what you have, or the symptoms you have. And then again, remember what symptoms are. They're part of our feedback system. They're telling us we're not doing something right. And I know there's a lot of confusion about what people think is our ideal diet, but it's a no-brainer. There are a dozen anatomical characteristics that just about every animal has on this planet that clearly determines what they're supposed to eat. And we're no different. We have a species-specific diet. It doesn't include animals. Insects, invertebrates, those are acceptable as far as not causing any problems digestively. And then the other issue is very simple. We're not supposed to cook our food. Once you add that piece to the equation, it's a no-brainer. Humans are clearly in the primate class of animals. Our anatomy is just like theirs. That means our diet should be very similar to theirs. And of course you hear silly comments about, oh, well, I guess we should do this and we should do this. No. We are not identical to our cousins. Our DNA is very similar. The big difference is that neocortex of ours. It's a whole different game. It's ridiculous to say something stupid about, oh, well, why don't you go throw some poop at somebody? We don't throw poop like other primates. When we throw poop, we do it with stupid words and stupid comments. We're still throwing poop. And if we weren't wearing clothes, we probably would be throwing our own poop. But since we're wearing clothes, we don't have good access to it. So instead, we shit on people with our words and our comments and our lies. I know most of you aren't lying. But you have to understand there's a huge percentage of people out there that are paid to do this. You got to really question whether or not the person that's commenting is paid to do it, or if it's some little juvenile 13-year-old boy having fun with you. Have you ever thought of that? How many times is someone pushing your button and they're laughing at you? And he's just a little kid. I guarantee you that's happening a whole lot more than you think. Wouldn't be hard to do, would it? Think about it. Just go to some political website or religious website or diet website. All you have to do is look at two different sides and the names they call people. Just go there and start calling people names. Oh my goodness. Can't help but think I probably would have done that when I was that age. I was pretty immature, relatively speaking. But I had a good excuse. I was eating the wrong food. I couldn't help it. Boy, it makes a difference, doesn't it? It's amazing how people can't see that connection. And it's sad that most people don't want to see it. It's a frightening thought for most people to think they should no longer eat a certain group of foods. It's frightening, isn't it? And when you're under a spell, you're in denial. So, I want to repeat myself one more time. I'm very passionate about what I do. I don't want to get a whole bunch of hits because I am talking crap and and I got everybody coming to my YouTube channel so you can argue with each other, I'm going to delete that stuff. I want people to come here to learn on my channel. I don't care about making money and having more views. I know how to get views if I want to. I wouldn't delete a lot of comments so that would create controversy, and then you guys would be arguing back and forth, and I'd get 20,000 views in a day by putting out a bunch of shit so that people could come to my YouTube channel and argue with each other. That's why I delete that crap. I want people to learn and grow from this. I'm not going to delete stuff when people are struggling. That's important. We need to understand, how do we help those people who are struggling. We need to hear from you guys on what you've been doing, but we need more details. How often are you eating? What's your mental state of mind at when you're eating? What was your childhood like? What's your mental attitude like? How about your sleep? Sunshine. Are you exposing your skin to fresh air and sunshine? Are you living a natural life? A lot of things can influence the quality of our overall life. And one of the biggest factors of all has to do with what we inherited from our parents. And I'm not saying that our problems are genetic, meaning that those are the cause of our diseases. They usually just determine how a disease will manifest, unless the genetic defect is so severe that we can't make a certain level 2 nutrient. That it happens with some people. I've met people like that. And that makes the whole equation very complicated. So, I'm pretty much all over the place on this video. I started off trying to help you guys understand that if you just read the title of an article, that can be part of Satan's secret weapon, where now you got another reference thinking this is true. Oh, look at this. This person's bad, 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 bad. I didn't even read the details, but bad, 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 bad. He must be bad. Everyone else is saying that. It must be true. And then when you come to my YouTube channel and you see people outright lying, using straw man arguments, I'm not going to defend a straw man argument. I'm just going to delete the whole thing. Again, I want people to learn. And I delete a lot of comments for other reasons too. I'll even delete a highlighted comment if I don't think it is helping my mission. I wouldn't mind it if it was down at the bottom, but I don't want people to read a stupid comment at the very top. So if your comment's a highlighted comment, and I view it as a stupid comment, sorry for using the word stupid. I say stupid if it's in any way counterproductive to waking us up. That's not what I want people to see. Those comments, if they're down at the bottom, I don't mind some of them. But I want people to not be confused. I want people to understand that, yes, people do struggle on this. It's going to happen. And we need to understand how that works more than anything else. But we also have to see the big picture. We have to understand the most important thing. Number one, we're not supposed to cook our food. Period. As long as you're eating cooked food and you complain about eating fruit, you're a fool. A friggin' fool. And if you don't think we're meant to be eating fruit, and you know you're a plant eater, and you don't realize how important cooking is in this equation, then you won't understand what we're supposed to eat. So, if you agree we're not supposed to eat animals, and if you can understand that we shouldn't cook our food, if we don't cook our food, what's left? What are we supposed to eat? I'm going to ask you that question. I deleted a comment earlier today. Some stupid person. Stupid person. Said, oh, we're not fruitarians just because John says so. Our anatomy says so, bozo. And once you understand that cooking alters the food and damages it in so many ways, you put that into the equation, there is no other choice for us to eat but fruit. And why should that surprise you? We're in the same class as all the other primates. That's what they're classified as. Sure, some of these primates are eating more insects and even some other invertebrates, or vertebrates, small vertebrates, more than others. But that's only because their environment is being encroached on. Remember Jane Goodall, the first 10 years when she lived amongst the apes, she never saw any chimpanzee eating another animal. But as their territory is encroaching, things changed. So we can extrapolate a lot about our diet based on what primates do, but not 100%. We have anatomical limitations that we're born with. We have a species-specific diet, and we also could be inherited a colon that's all screwed up. It's got a little loop in it or something. Who knows what you've got down there? That happens to people. But then we've got another group of needs because there's another group of anatomical limitations. Because somehow we've damaged ourselves. So we have to respect both anatomical limitations. And if you're so far damaged that you can't eat fruit, then what's your choice? Well, you've got to choose the best of the cooked foods you can. And accept that's the best you can do, and okay, no big deal. Don't feel bad about it. Don't feel like you got to rationalize and explain yourself to anybody. I'm damaged. I wish I could eat it, but I can't. Still got this darn colon problem, but I'm going to keep eating the wrong food anyway. I know it's challenging. I really feel sorry for people who have these type of complications. It's got to be difficult. There's just no other way around it. But you got to find the courage to admit that you're not supposed to cook food. As long as you're eating cooked food, you're never going to have any success unless you finally come to the realization that you're so far damaged that the fruit is just too irritating somehow, which should never be the case. So, once again, I've rambled quite a few places in this video. And a lot of people unsubscribe to me because they think, oh, John, you're a conservative. Oh, John, you support Trump. Oh, John, you support Hillary. Oh, really? Do I? It's all a ruse, folks. We shouldn't have a government to begin with. That's only a subsequent need because we're sick and disconnected. But we got to make the best of what we got right now. There's a lot of problems in what we got right now. And we know virtually everybody that's in the system right now is part of the problem. We're going to have some new, fresh blood come into this system somehow. And that's not going to happen unless the masses change. Goes back to Confucius once again. He had the right idea. He knew the best way to have a good government is to have good men. Because what happens when you have good men, you have good families. What happens when you have good families, you have good communities. What happens when you have good communities, you have good government. What happens when you got a good government? We're in for a treat.